First Lieutenant Clint Loracne is currently serving a 19-year sentence after being convicted of 1 count of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder for a split-second decision he made on the battlefield in 2012 to fire at 3 Afghan men who were speeding on a motorcycle toward his platoon.
So what do all these cases have in common? What could the President of the United States do about it? And why are our American heroes falling victim now to military prosecutors?
Joining us now is Don Brown. He's the author of the new book, Travesty of Justice, which tells Lieutenant Lorance's story. He's also a member of Lorance's defense team. He served in the U.S. Navy himself as a JAG officer. Don, thanks so much for being here. This story, listen, I was a platoon leader in Iraq.
Right.
Had to make some of the very same decisions at the split moment. You don't know sometimes civilian from enemy, yet he's charged with murder. Why?
Because the rules of engagement around the summer of 2011 changed, and they became so severely limited that, in fact, unofficial U.S. policy was to place the lives of the Taliban on a higher rung on the totem pole than our own soldiers. In other words, the Obama administration's policy by these restrictive rules of engagement favored the Taliban over Americans. Clint Loracne is an example of that. And if you don't believe it, you can compare and contrast the cases of Bo Bergdahl, and now I heard you guys talking about Assange a moment ago, Bradley Manning, who turned those documents over, got a 35-year sentence. Obama lets him walk through it free. And when you look at Bergdahl is a traitor to this country. You know, he abandoned his men. We sent dozens of soldiers looking for him. 6 Americans lost their lives. Obama swaps 5 Taliban terrorists to bring Bergdahl back. Bergdahl pleads guilty to desertion, and this left-wing military justice system gives Bergdahl a tap on the wrist, lets him walk. And by contrast, Clint Loracne, who is an American hero who takes his men into battle, is serving a 19-year sentence because his men opened fire on what appeared to be a Taliban suicide attack. And by the way, we later found evidence. Colonel John Maher, the leader of the defense team, found biometrics evidence that the guys that were shot, are actually Taliban bomb makers. And yet Loracne rots in prison at Fort Leavenworth today. I was with him last week. Today is the day we need President Trump to take action. I love you guys, love coming to the show, but I don't want to come back 6 months and lament about this again. We've got a presidential proclamation drafted by the defense team.
Got a copy of it right here.
The president, Mr. President, you have the greatest signature of all presidents that I've ever seen, historically.
All right, we're going to get to that. I'm going to mention that in a moment. I first want to be fair to the Army. Their statement regarding the Lorance case. The Army has nothing further to add in this case. So we're trying to be fair, but basically they're not saying much. And I get there's ongoing legal matters, and sometimes you can't weigh in. But the proclamation I mentioned here, you know, just give us the gist of what you want the president to sign.
The President of the United States, under Article 2, Section 2 of the United States Constitution, is Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Everybody, every active service member, from the highest 4-star down to the lowest private, works for the President. He is the Commander-in-Chief. And under Article 60 of the UCMJ, not that he even needs this authority, he has the power to disallow or to disprove the sentences and findings for Clint Loracne. We're not asking for...
Is it essentially a pardon, or is it...
The problem with a pardon, and we appreciate what the president did with Christian Saucier, a pardon implies guilt. Clint is guilty of nothing except for being a red-blooded American patriot who put his lives on the line for his country. And by the way, Clint loves his country so much and loves the Army, he still wants to serve. But a disapproval of findings will wipe the whole thing out. This is an order to the Secretary of the Army to reinstate Clint to active duty, to give him back pay now for the 6 years he's rotted in Leavenworth. And also it's an order immediately to the Commandant of the United States Disciplinary Barracks at Fort Leavenworth to let him go today.
Don, to be clear, he's charged with murder. He was convicted of murder, and who he murdered were members of the enemy on a battlefield. He was sent to fight for this country.
That is correct. They were riding a motorcycle, charging his position. He ordered his men to open fire because they appeared to be bound with explosives.
And they'd already been attacked by suicide bombers.
Yes, they had. This was July 2nd, 2012, to put it in perspective. Just 3 weeks earlier, there had been a suicide bomb just at Kandahar Air Base, killing 22. Sorry, Ed.
All right. Wow. No. Don Brown, we appreciate it. The author of Travesty of Justice.
Check it out.
Remarkable case. Check it out.
Hey, God bless Clint. Give him our best, please.
Thanks for what you guys are doing. God bless you both.
It's a tough job, and he did it for our nation. Remember the case of Army First Lieutenant Clint Loracne. We brought it to you on this program, who was fighting the war on terror when he ordered his platoon to fire at 3 Afghan men who were approaching on a motorcycle as they were on a patrol. Now he's serving a 19-year sentence in Leavenworth after being convicted of 2 counts of murder on the battlefield. And a new docu-series is examining the case. Watch.
I had dreamed of the time where I would become a platoon leader. He was the hardest working soldier that ever worked for me.
The military justice system can be manipulated.
Clint was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
It was my job to get the guys back home safe. I was the Army scapegoat.
Was this someone who sought to do what was right, or is this someone who just disregarded procedures?
You hear from Clint himself in the film. So is this new series an accurate portrayal of the case? Joining us now is Jamie Lorance, Clint's first cousin, and Don Brown, a member of Lorance's legal team and the author of the book, Travesty of Justice, the shocking prosecution of Lieutenant Clint Lorance. Thank you both for being here this morning. Don, I'll start with you. This is a 5-part series on Starz about Clint's case. Accurate or not? Should folks watch it?
Partially. The documentary, I don't believe, is designed to tell the full picture. It's designed to create controversy. If you want to read a review, the New York Times had a decent review. It says it doesn't give any answers. The documentary does some good things. Pay attention to Colonel John Maher, the founder of our defense team, a leading biometrics expert who exposes biometrics expert. The Army hid evidence that Clint killed Taliban bomb makers in this case, Pete. And so the documentary does a good job there. And we're trying to hit that even harder now.
I'm holding a report right here, which you got released through FOIA, which shows that the bomb makers that the guys that Clint's platoon killed, the folks on the motorcycle, were bomb makers.
Absolutely. The government held that from the initial defense team. Colonel Maher, who founded our defense team, discovered that through contacts in Afghanistan. Then we FOIA'd. We filed a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit, Kevin Mikashek and John Maher, against the government, and they coughed it up. What you're holding is red-hot evidence that Clint Lorance killed the enemy, and yet he's serving in prison today. 7 years already, almost, on a 19-year sentence. And we're respectfully calling upon President Trump to bring him home before Veterans Day. Do the right thing. As you just pointed out, Baghdadi was killed. Al-Baghdadi's been killed today, and Clint Lorance went over there to take care of guys like that. All he was trying to do is protect his men, to keep them from going home in body bags, and this country treats them like that. 20 years to an American paratrooper. It's time to put an end to it, Pete.
Well, we're learning more details tonight about the presidential pardon of an Oklahoma soldier. Army First Lieutenant Clint Lorance is now making the trek home to Celeste, Texas. Lorance from Hobart, Oklahoma, or Hobart. He was serving a 19-year murder sentence in Leavenworth federal prison. Lorance was found guilty in August of 2013 for the shooting death of 2 civilians during a 2012 mission in Afghanistan. Lorance thanked President Trump when he was released on Friday.
Joining us now, Army First Lieutenant Clint Lorance and Clint's attorney, Don Brown. You were there 72 hours. That you came to take over a platoon where a bunch of Taliban on motorcycles had killed members of that platoon and took out the leader, severely injuring him, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, these guys passed the checkpoint and didn't stop, right?
Correct.
Sounds like exactly what had happened just before you had gotten there 2 weeks earlier.
Absolutely. Happened all the time over there.
Your job is to make sure that these men that you are protecting as their platoon leader come home, right?
Right.
And so how many seconds did you have to decide whether or not they were like the ones that injured the last platoon leader and killed others?
It was just a few seconds.
Yeah.
Just a few seconds. And in that time, there's so many things going through your head. You're responsible for those guys. You're responsible for not just the Americans on the ground, the American soldiers, the young 18-year-old soldiers from across the country. But you're also responsible for the reputation of the United States. You're responsible for the partnership between the Afghan forces. And so you're thinking of a million different things, and I had a couple of seconds to make a decision.
So we sent you over there to fight a war, right? If I remember correctly, this was a war against the Taliban.
Right.
Okay. And that platoon had just experienced death and injuries because of guys on motorcycles, right?
Absolutely.
And after your case, then we found out that, in fact, physical DNA evidence, right?
Right.
Literally was on IEDs for the very guys that you ended up rightly killing, correct?
Absolutely.
How did this happen?
The Army hid the evidence. They wanted to push an agenda. They wanted to protect Obama's rules of engagement. Clint dared to try to protect his men. And the rules were set to place the lives of the Taliban above the lives of Americans. And so when Clint took action to take out this approaching motorcycle that threatened his men, and the Afghans, there were Afghan allies at the front of his platoon that fired first. He ordered fire within a period of about 15 seconds. They wanted to push an agenda to protect suicidal rules of engagement. So they hid evidence, Sean.
So in the Obama years, they had rules of engagement that actually said you can't shoot unless you're fired upon. So maybe you'll die first, or somebody gets injured first, then you can fight a war.
The battlefield lawyer rule: you can't fire until you show hostile intent and hostile threat, and you've got to go through a battlefield lawyer analysis. By the time that happens, you're blown up or you're shot. And if you dare to take action like Clint did, they'll prosecute you for murder. And the president has taken a bold step to end that, and we're grateful for it.
Well, I just can't believe it. If we're going to do this to guys we send to war, we can't send them. Because if you're not going to fight to win the war, what's the point?
Right, absolutely. The way I look at it, if you're not willing to fight the way you need to fight to win, then don't send the United States military. Send the State Department, the CIA.
How about those guys in air-conditioned offices that want to sit back and judge your 3-second decision? Maybe we ought to send them over there and see how they do in that environment. A lot of it, though, based on the rules of engagement. What recourse, Counselor, does he have? Because I would want to sue a lot of people.
We're going to talk to them about that, but I think the best thing that can happen is that Congress take action to end these suicidal rules forever so that other young men aren't put under this. This is personal to me. My son is a young paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division. The president has now taken action to show that he has the backs of these troops, but we have to codify it so that never again does this ever happen where we prosecute a young American for taking out the enemy.
You don't seem angry. I'd be very angry. I'd be one pissed off person that lost 6 years of my life.
Well, you know, that doesn't do any good, the way I look at it. You know, when something like this happens to you, you get really good at making lemonade. And so, I mean, there's only one way to deal with that, and that is to get past it and to, you know, to keep putting one foot in front of the other. But look, Sean, January 20th, 2017, you know, my life changed forever because I knew that I had hope that day. And I knew that, you know, with President Trump getting elected, that I was going to go home. And yeah, it took a little while, but you know what? He's a busy man. He's being attacked from all sides, even from our own side. So
you had a lot of opposition.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have followed your case for 6 years.
Absolutely.
I mentioned it to many people,
right,
including the president,
right,
in an interview,
right.
Anyway, we're glad you're home.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Your country owes you an apology. That was a disgrace.
Well, Sean, I just want to fix it. I don't want an apology. I just want to fix it. And I'm asking Congress to fix it.
I want an apology. I want one for you. You deserve one. And it's happened to other people, too.
It doesn't make any sense that we're willing to go over there and drop bombs with drones in Yemen and places like that every single day and take out wedding parties and so on and so forth. But when you have an infantryman on the ground making these impossible decisions, we send them to prison. Because of what? Some general gets embarrassed? It makes absolutely no sense.
Well said. Welcome home, soldier.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you very much, sir.
Appreciate it.
Woo! Stay close. Stay close. All right, everyone. This is the moment. Here's Clint.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again. Just my children and my home. Thank my lucky stars to be living here today.
Say hi to your fans.
Everybody,
it's Clint.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died.
How's it feel, Clint? It feels great. Hey, I want to say thank you, President Trump. I'd like to ask the rest of the country to help me do that too. To tell President Trump thank you. I really appreciate it.
Welcome home.
Now,
Hello, everybody. I'm Clint Loracne. In 2013, I ended up in Fort Leavenworth Military Prison under the Obama administration's disastrous military policies. I had been an infantry lieutenant in the 82nd Airborne Division leading a combat patrol in 2012. And when Obama's deep state bureaucrats needed a scalp to serve to the Afghan government, I was it. I served 6 years, 3 months, and 14 days in Leavenworth because the Obama administration weaponized the justice system for political gain. Then President Donald Trump issued a pardon and gave me my life back. You know, my journey has taught me the value of true leadership and justice. And Don Brown has been there with me every step of the way. He is a leader and he's a warrior for warriors.
President Reagan, one of the great mantras of his administration was peace through strength. Once again, never have so many owed so much to so few. God bless them all.